to each other.
And do you see progress? Let's talk about corporations. Do you see ever more number of corporations concerned with how, I know, for example, at Indigo, we measure and we set goals every year for how much we reduce, and for our employees, it's a big thing. I think if we do it because we care, but if we didn't, our employees know better, like they want it. Do you feel energized by the amount of corporate engagement in the subject, or do you think we still have to somehow get to the tipping point? Maybe that's the way to raise the question. Are we at a tipping point to start reversing the consumerism and reversing the waste, or is there still some sort of momentum that has to be created?
I think there's still enormous momentum that has to be created, and that's where all of us come in. I think that we've made enormous progress in terms of the sort of consumer angle, buy green, buy PVC-free, buy less toxic, that piece. But what we're missing is the citizen engagement. It's very interesting to me when I travel around the country, I show the film The Story of Stuff, which lays out a pretty broad, pretty systemic critique of our current economy. Yes. I cannot tell you how many times afterwards I show that someone raises their hand and says, "What can I buy differently to solve this problem?" I say, you can't, because the solutions we need are not for sale, even at Whole Foods. Right. They are not for sale. The solutions come from engaging as a citizen. So there's a piece of this that we can do from our consumer self. We can shop more responsibly. We can buy less toxic. We can buy the least exploitative stuff. Often it's not buying at all. When you need something, do you have a neighbor you can borrow it from? Do you not even need it at all? Maybe your current one is good enough. There's definitely a piece that we can do in the consumer part, but that's just a tiny little piece. What we really need to do is re-engage as citizens. We need to really change the rules of the game so that doing the environmentally correct thing becomes the default option. Paul Hawken likes to say that...
he's great.
He's really wonderful.
He's amazing.
One of his things that he said is that getting better and better at these lifestyle changes is like getting better and better at swimming upstream. But the current is still running our whole economy towards toxic-laden, consumer-crazed, materials-destroying model. Like, there's only so much we can do as individuals in our own lifestyle. So those lifestyle changes in the consumer part, we're definitely making more progress on that, but those fall in the category of responsible household management, not political engagement. Do that, but then also engage in the political process so that rather than perfecting that when you go into the store which sunscreen doesn't have toxics, get the toxics out of sunscreen. Right. Rather than studying which electronics don't leach reproductive toxins, get the reproductive toxins out of electronics. We need to intervene at the top of the food chain here at where the decisions about how our stuff is made.
Right, but that, you could rate companies. It would be easy to rate companies, right? Do a report card. Have you ever thought about doing that? You could do a report card you must know the company, Interfloor.
Interface. Interface Carpet.
Interface Carpets, Ray Anderson's company. I thought it was called Interfloor. Interface, okay. Yeah. So you could tell a little bit about Interface, because it's an interesting question, right? Because they've gone right to the root.
Absolutely. Actually, and I saw his book up there. It was right next to mine, and I was so happy.
Because I had him here a few weeks ago. He's great. So tell people, to get a sense about what kind of company might you choose to do, and we just put his carpet in here.
Yeah, you did? That's great.
Yeah,
because when you asked about how are companies doing, business is not a homogenous entity.
Right.
Some are like stuck in the old school, committed to never changing dinosaurs, and others are really forward thinking. And one of my heroes in that is Ray Anderson from Interface Carpets, and he just wrote a book called The Confessions of a Radical Industrialist, which is really great. So he makes floor coverings like commercial floor coverings. It's not like the beautiful carpets you have in your home. It's like commercial offices.
You can see them upstairs. We just replaced our upstairs carpets where the new ones are. They come from there.
So those kind of carpets are petroleum-based, loaded with toxic dyes and solvents, enormously wasteful. It uses huge amounts of energy, huge amounts of water. It's a nasty, huge multinational corporation. So he had this revelation over a decade ago and wanted to know how sustainable could they be? Not just to tinker around the edges and reduce packaging by 10% or set up a recycling in their offices or whatever, but to really fundamentally transform what does it mean to be a business in today's society. It is amazing what they have done. They have reduced their energy use, reduced their waste use, reduced their toxic chemicals, like by enormous statistics. I don't even want to say them because they're changing so much each day, but it's like in the 80s and 90%. Just fundamentally transformed this huge multinational corporation. I find it enormously hopeful because it was a nasty company beforehand. One of the things he says is that if we can do it, anyone can do it. And if anyone can do it, everyone can do it. And one of the things he did that's different than what a lot of companies do is not just tinkering around the edges, but really fundamentally rethinking the whole model. So, for example, he saw that with carpets, usually 80% of the wear happens on 20% of the carpets. But the way that carpets are, you got to rip the whole thing out, chuck it in the landfill, go mine some more oil, go get some more synthetic chemicals, make a new carpet, and put it in. So he decided, why not make tiles? Why not make tiles with the pattern so mix-matched that you can just take out the ones that are old and put in new ones? Just that alone reduced waste enormously. So he's really rethinking, how do we meet our society's needs, our materials needs, without trashing the planet and without trashing each other. So to me, it's just that this kind of hopeful stuff is what keeps me going. A lot of people ask me, how come I don't get depressed? I say, because it doesn't have to be this way. There are so many solutions for every problem we have out there. What we're missing is citizen engagement.
So tell us a little about citizen engagement. Like I think everybody who's here is the choir, right? We came tonight because we're so interested in this. Could you share 3 or 4 things that you think could help citizens become intelligent activists, impactful activists in some way? Could you share that with us?
People often say you're preaching to the choir, and I say there's a reason the minister preaches to the choir every week. It deepens our analysis, it solidifies our commitment, it helps us strategize together about how we're going to make change. So one of the great things about the scale and enormity of the problem that we're facing is that there are so many ways to plug in that you don't even have to do something boring. Like, whatever turns you on, there is a way to plug in. I mean, for me, it's garbage, and I encourage you all to give that a try. If it's not garbage for you, there's plenty of other things. So what I like to encourage people to do is to inventory their passions and skills and see what excites you and find a way to plug in there. Because this is going to be a long haul, turning our society around, rebuilding our economy to be sustainable and fair. And it's going to be a lot more fun if you like what you're doing. So pick something that turns you on. If it's food, you might want to do a CSA, a community-supported agriculture, or get the local public schools to have organic food. If it's transportation, work for better bike lanes. If it's toxics, join the campaign for safe cosmetics that's forcing companies to get reproductive toxins and neurotoxins out of our sunscreen and lipsticks. I mean, there are literally thousands and thousands of organizations to join. So find what turns you on and find other people working on that to plug in. A couple of other things I really recommend is watch less TV. The average person in North America now is watching 5 hours of TV a day, and then they say, I'd love to be engaged, but I simply don't have time. So, I actually got rid of my TV. If you're not ready to do that yet, at least limit it. Take an hour a day away from the TV and spend it talking to your neighbors and your friends and your coworkers about what you can do to help make the world better. We need to re-engage as citizens and as community members, not just as consumers. There's so many other campaigns. It depends what turns you on.